What it is, y'all, it's your old boy Pilk, and I'm coming back today with another DANMACHI Season 4 episode review. Today we're going to be reviewing episode number 2, and before I get too deep into this, let me just say right away, it is really obvious that Amori is the script supervisor on these episodes. These episodes have adhered, not perfectly, but really, really well, nevertheless, to the original light novels. The light novels, it's not been a perfect adaptation. I mean, considering what they've got to work with the past past 2-3 seasons versus what they've got going on now, they've obviously had to move some stuff around, and they've even rearranged a few things that happened earlier in the light novels to later episodes based on some of the episode's spoiler things that we've received. But thus far, the script adherence has been phenomenal. I'm going to go and just come out of the gate. This was an easy, and I mean easy, 8 out of 10 for me. And before you start, a lot of people get on to me for my ratings because my ratings are pretty harsh. But for me, a 5 is a solid medium. It's 50%. You're halfway there. It's passable. It's doable. So an 8 for me is a really, really good number. The animation thus far has been really exceptional. I noticed a lot of things back in season 3 where they started to get really lazy on the animation, and a lot of animation companies back then were just producing stuff. They were like, we'll get it out there and we'll clean it up for the Blu-ray release or whatever, and that way, like, we try to bolster numbers for the Blu-ray releases. But the honest answer here is the animation's been really good. Not perfect, but really solid. It is everything we kind of had hoped. Now, to be fair, it is still very early, and last time it was about halfway through the season, this thing started to fall off a little bit. So there is time, to kind of readjust this as time goes. But the reality is right now everything's really, really, really well done. So easily one of the best managed, I say episodes, best managed seasons. So at least so far. I mean, we're 2 out of 11 that we know of. I've heard rumor that we're probably getting double that number, and considering the pacing, I would not be shocked at all. But yeah, we're only 2 episodes in, but thus far shows a lot of promise. And I want to say, even with season 3, as much as I adore season 3, some of the cracks are beginning to show even by this point. But right now, the storytelling is still really good. The build-up is still really good. The adaptation compared to the light novel is still pretty good. Once again, could be better. Definitely could be a lot worse. So very happy with what we've got. So let's go ahead and now get into a few spoilers. If you haven't watched the episode, I don't know why you're watching review, but if you haven't watched the episode, we are going to get into episode spoilers right now. So you have been warned. Right out of the gate, we jump right back in to where we left off with the end of episode 1, that big fight with the Hornets. And this was good, but honestly, where the episode starts to lose a little bit, this was pretty intense in the light novel. Like, there was a whole thing with the nest, and they, like, even dive into how the nests generally work and how this one was very different. And this was just kind of, okay, it's a bunch of hornets and it's a nest. Like I've been fighting wasps. It's summertime in Georgia. I'm trying to stop wasps from growing on my, growing. Like they're plants. I'm trying to stop wasps from building nests on my property, and I felt like it wasn't that, like the threat was about on that level. Like, okay, I'm just going to swatch in and go on. And to be fair, most of that is just because Belle is like insanely overpowered at this point. But there was a few key details that were missing from the light novel, and that's kind of where most of the 2 points that I took off for this episode kind of came off. There were other things, but once again, I don't think it didn't hurt the episode. All things considered, it was probably done for the sake of time and getting the story to progress, because that in and of itself probably was, I don't know, page and a half of the light novel, so it would have taken a considerable amount of time, especially considering it's like lore building. Now, we did get some actual lore building. Belle talks a lot about how they can mark the dungeon, and they talk about this in the light novel too, how you can mark the dungeon, and the dungeon, which is, I say sentient, but kind of, for lack of a better way to put it, sentient. It's insinuated to be its own deity type thing. If you didn't watch season 3, spoilers, but you already got spoiler warning, so whatever. If you're mad at this point, that's on you. So basically talking about how the dungeon would then mostly just kind of focus on healing before it starts spawning more more monsters while they're trying to sleep. So it's really smart. Like Belle's picking up all this stuff, but mostly, if you really, really, really want to dig down here, they're just kind of building the dungeon and the dungeon threats. And from time to time, they'll be like with the coral incident where they send Belle and Mikoto over to get the coral, and then obviously when she's coming back, that big fish monster thing comes crashing in and tries to eat her. And what they really do here, and one of the best things about this episode is they're really showing you the buildup of these characters. Mikoto never would have been able to do that, and they just really, she talks about it being like the spoils of her training under her deity, or her former deity, I guess, this point. So they really do go back and forth, like showing the weaknesses and the strengths and all that of each individual character, not just Belle. And that's another thing I really do love about this season. Is in the past it just felt like it was Belle's show, and it is. He's the protag. But the honest answer is, in the light novels, you get a lot of, say, screen time, but you get a lot of read time with so many other characters, and they all have like really interesting stories and motivations and things like that. And oftentimes it's skipped. This season they're not skipping that, so I really do appreciate that as well. And that probably is part of what's going to drag this season out a little bit longer than others. But I'm perfectly happy with that. I'm loving this. So Mikoto basically does this like somersault back kick thing, and everyone kind of says, "Oh, okay, that's the thing." But if you really want to go back to it, like Belle, yes, once again, I'm going to talk about the protag because it's the protag show. He was just wrecking everything. Like he was not breaking a sweat. I believe it was right before or right after that. Anyway, right around that time, they're attacked by the crabs. Make short work of them. Like it was an off-camera fight, and it's a big deal. Like they make a big deal about, oh my god, these things are horrifying, and then, well, they were done. they just weren't a thing. His fight with the Hornets, and he's just one after one after one, and then does the firebolt. Now I could in the comic, but I'm doing a lot of Marvel stuff over on the podcast. In the light novel, I do remember he used his little Argonaut. I think it was the Argonaut skill, the with the little bong thing goes off. I believe he used that in the light novel. I almost said in the manga and in the comic again. In the light novel. So they kind of did skip over that part, but in basically what they did for the longest is they've just been building up how much more of a badass he is. But let's really talk about the end of this episode, because that's the really, really, really important part. You have this one of the guys that Belle had encountered when he went to go meet with Ina before he went to the dungeon. He comes out of nowhere, and they're like, everyone's like, stay on guard. This does not look right. What's this guy doing? You find out he's missing an arm. He has been jacked up. And then you've got this, like, man-thing Sasquatch-looking dude who just, I mean, he's a monster, comes out of nowhere and is just wrecking everything. He puts Belle through I mean, this is where you really get to see where Belle is such a progressing character. Like, first season, this dude was, like, cowering from monsters, and now he's just like a Jedi. He's doing backflips, jumping all over the place. Dude is just a beast, y'all. I mean, can we take a moment to appreciate the progression? And I think they said, even in the light novel, I don't remember if they mentioned it here, I think it's like 5 months he's been at it since the franchise began. 5 months, y'all. I don't know about you. Like, even when I was 14, there was, like, when I was 14, you could pick up a skill and you could just go to town. But there was no progressing like this. This is insane. Like, an insane amount of progression. They don't, one of the downsides to the anime is they don't really focus enough on how amazing it is that Belle has progressed so fast. I think we're going to get some of that here really soon, but thus far they haven't really talked about it. But this dude has progressed at a lightning speed. Just an insane pace. And the things he's able to do now compared to what he was able to do before, just phenomenal. Anyway, I digress. Basically, the whole thing is led up to the monster does this kind of like seed sprout attack where he just starts like goes full metal storm and it's just like rapid fire millions of seeds at our adventurers friends here. And they even talk in the episode about the new materials and stuff that Welf crafted and how good they are and how they're mostly designed for like water defense, but you really see them at work here. Like they even got like basically a cloak. Pull it over to, I believe it was Mikoto and Harihime that pull over. And these seeds are just bouncing off. Chigusa is walking around with this big shield. Her and Oka are behind the shield. Unfortunately, not that it does Chigusa much good. She gets hit with one. And for the it really wasn't that big of a deal. Like, dude was laying on the floor like, don't get hit. Don't get hit. Like, this guy got his arm cut off. So what's going on? When they start coming at you rapid fire, you're like, oh, okay. So it's just Gatling gun. Okay, you got it. Don't get hit by the seeds. But Chigusa gets hit. And at first, it doesn't look like it's that big of a deal. It's not like... It's like she took one little round. Like, and once again, like I say, like, getting shot isn't that big of a deal. But all things considered, you think she got off lucky. But then immediately when she hits the ground, the sprout starts growing out of her. And they're talking about what kind of moss it is and all this stuff. So Chigusa is in real, honest to goodness peril. And that's awesome, because most of the time in the series, the way the series was done before, they would have just passed over this character. Oh, shit. I guess there's some people back there and they got hit with something. So more about Belle. So they're really, obviously that's a gross over-exaggeration, but it's just the way it comes across sometimes. So that's the end of the episode. They've already talked about how they have to go back to level 24. They're level, 26, I think they said here at this point? 25. 25, 26. The 25 because it's the next level. That's how numbers work. But I digress. They're talking about how they have to go back to 24 to go to the base camp. Now it seems like they're probably going to have to go back to level 18. At least I'm guessing. Because I've not read this far in the light novels, I hate to admit. Have the light novel sitting right over there. We're going to catch up with the rest of it. One thing I will say, guys, if you have not read the light novels, do so. I am currently trying to do like week by week be about where they are, but unfortunately the last maybe quarter of this episode I didn't quite get to in the light novels yet. So but most of this seems like it's come from chapter 1. I'm just shy of finishing chapter 1. So chapter 1 of book 12, you can catch up pretty quickly and see some of the things that you've missed. It's about 100-ish pages, about half. Well, no, I take it back. I think it's chapter 2. Chapter 2, I could be wrong in that. Anyway, it's like 100-ish pages of a 250-page book. It's really not that big. It's a quick read. But nevertheless, really good. Do quite enjoy this. If you guys want more in-depth, I really do recommend the light novels. But largely, like, these episodes have been very good, really well adhered to it. It's just they're going to obviously go a little bit deeper into, the lore and the characters and all this, where, as we kind of discussed before, the anime tends to just mostly focus on one character. But nevertheless, guys, this has been a really phenomenal episode. Cannot wait. We started off slowly built up. Now we've got a bunch of action. Things are going on. Now we have real peril. So episode 3, you better believe there was some hype for that. So let me know what you guys thought in the comment section down below. I will catch you guys next week for episode number 3, and the hype could not be greater at this point. See you guys then.